Under 25,000 Canadian dollars. That's not the deposit. That's not a half-built shell on a dirt lot. That is the whole asking price for a house. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a furnace that was put in new, in a town that the maps still print and the census has all but given up on. And before you tell me there's got to be a catch, you're right. There is. There's a catch on every single one of these, and I'm going to read you each one straight, because that catch is the whole story. Here's the number to hold on to. Saskatchewan has close to 200 places the census now counts as nearly empty. Villages that once had a church, a school, and a grain train that stopped twice a day, and have lost almost all of it. The land's still there, the streets are still named, the people just thinned out year after year, until what's left is a handful of folks and a row of houses nobody's buying. That's where today's prices come from. I've spent years reading the list the realtors bury, the ghost towns, the dying villages, the prairie crossroads where the elevator came down and never went back up. And I keep finding the same thing. The cheap house in Canada isn't a myth. It's just sitting in a town that's quietly emptying out, where the average buyer would never think to look. So hit subscribe and come down this list with me. Today I'll show you 6 homes in Canada's ghost and dying towns, everyone going for under 50,000 Canadian dollars, and everyone with a catch I'll tell you before you fall in love. One honest word up top, because I won't pretend with you. A proper, abandoned ghost town almost never has a house for sale. Nobody's left to sell one. What I've got is the next thing along. Towns that are mostly gone, villages that have lost 2/3 of their people, places the census files under former village. The houses are real, the decline is documented, and the prices are about what you'd expect when a town stops growing and starts saying goodbye. We count down from 6, and number 1 is the cheapest and the strangest of the lot. Number 6. Bengough, down in the south of Saskatchewan, out where the prairie rolls toward the Big Muddy and the Montana line isn't far past the horizon. I'm starting you off gentle, because Bengough is the most alive of the 6, and even Bengough is shrinking. Around 330 people live here now, and the trend line points the wrong way, slow and steady, the way these towns always go. It's not a ghost town. It's a town that's quietly losing the argument with time, and the prices show it. On the cheap property listings, houses in Bengough turn up in the ballpark of 17,000 Canadian dollars. Not all of them, mind, but the bottom of the market here really is down around there. For $17,000, you're looking at an older place, modest. The kind of 2 or 3 bedroom house a family raised 4 kids in 50 years ago, now waiting for somebody to want it again. So what's the catch on a $17,000 house? The same one that made it cheap. Bengough is far, the hospital's a drive, the city's a longer one, and the young people who grew up here mostly left for Regina and never came back. Picture a wide main street with more parking than cars, a grain elevator standing watch over a town that's smaller every census, and a winter that runs the show for half the year. A house that cheap usually wants work too. At that price, you're buying somebody's bones and bringing the rest yourself. But if you want your own 4 walls for the price of a used car, Bengough is the floor of the ordinary market. Everything from here down gets emptier and stranger. Hold on to that 17,000 because the next town has lost something Bengough still has. Most of its people. Number 5. Tuxford, just up the road from Moose Jaw, a village that was incorporated back in 1907 and has been getting quieter ever since. About 103 people live in Tuxford now, down nearly 9% in 5 years. Of the 42 houses standing, only 40 have anybody in them, which tells you exactly what kind of place this is. Not dead. Dying slow in the polite prairie way, one empty house at a time. There's a home here from around 1912 that turns up around 42,000 Canadian dollars, and this one's got character. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, arched doorways, a stained glass window the colour of a church, 1,000 square feet of the kind of craftsmanship nobody pays for anymore, 15 minutes from Moose Jaw. On paper, it's the prettiest house on this list. Now here's the catch, and it's a blunt one. The septic system on that house does not work. Not needs a service, needs replacing the whole thing, and that is a real bill that does not show up on the asking price. So that $42,000 charmer with the stained glass comes with a hole in the ground that you'll be paying to fill before you can properly live in it. That's the honest math on a cheap old house. The number on the sign is only the start of the conversation. I'm not telling you to walk away. I'm telling you to add the septic to the price before you let yourself love the hardwood. And carry that septic with you because it's the lesson of the whole list. The towns from here are emptier than Tuxford, the prices drop again, but the catch never disappears. It just changes shape. Where we're going next, the catch isn't the plumbing, it's the silence. Number 4, Lemberg, out east of Regina in the Cuapel country, where the flat land folds down into a green river valley, and the old brick storefronts still spell out names of businesses that closed before you were born. Lemberg's down around 250 people now, and falling. A town that once had the bustle of a railway stop, and now has the hush of a place the train stopped needing. The school's holding on, a lot else isn't. The cheap houses here come up in the neighbourhood of 30,000 Canadian dollars. The odd older home, 2 or 3 bedrooms, a yard with a couple of trees somebody planted as a windbreak 2 generations back. $30,000 for a whole house with a whole yard in a valley that's genuinely pretty. The listings exist. You just have to know to look in Lemberg, and almost nobody does. So what's the catch this time? It isn't a broken septic. It's everything that's already left. The jobs went first, then the shops, then the families who could follow the jobs, and what's left is cheap precisely because so few people want to be here. You'd be buying into a town on the downslope of its own history, where the loudest thing on a Tuesday afternoon is the wind in the elevator. A $30,000 house in Lemberg isn't a bargain the way a sale is a bargain. It's a number that exists because the demand walked out the door. For some folks, that quiet is the whole appeal. For others, it's the thing they couldn't live with. You've got to be honest about which one you are. And if you've made it this far down the list with me, you already understand the real prairie better than most people who'll ever scroll a property site. So do me a favour, hit subscribe, and let's keep heading down this list together, because the towns from here on are where it stops being quiet and starts being something closer to alone. They're the cheapest of all 6, and the emptiest. Number 3, Val Marie, away down in the far southwest corner of Saskatchewan, right on the edge of Grasslands National Park, about as far from a city as you can get and still be on a paved road. Here's the number that tells the story. At its peak, back in 1961, Val Marie had 443 people. Today it has 120. That's a town that's lost nearly 3/4 of itself. Not in a flood, not in a fire, just in the slow drain of the low grain prices and dry years and young folks leaving, one pickup truck at a time. And in a town that small with that history, the houses go cheap. There's a place here from around 1936, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, newer windows, low maintenance siding, that sits in the ballpark of 40,000 Canadian dollars. I'll be square with you. Prices on these old listings sometimes get quoted in American dollars, and once you convert it, the number can creep close to the 50,000 line. Call it 40 to the low 50s, depending on the day's exchange. Either way, it's a 3-bedroom house for the price of a modest car. The catch here is the one word that runs through the whole town: remote. Val Marie has limited services, and I mean limited. Your shopping, your doctor, anything you'd call an errand is a real drive across open country, and that country in January does not forgive a breakdown. This is the kind of isolation that sounds romantic on a summer evening, and feels very different at 40 below, with the nearest town an hour off. The town is emptying, plainly and steadily. You'd be moving into the quiet, not away from it. But here's the other half, the half that makes Val Marie more than a sad story. Right on its doorstep is Grasslands National Park. Open prairie the way it was before the plough, dark skies you can actually see stars in, bison on the horizon. A $40,000 house with a national park for a backyard. The price is low because the town is fading. What you get for it is a kind of space most people will never own. Whether that's a catch or a gift depends entirely on who you are. Now hold on to that 3-bedroom house, because the next town took the decline a step further still, and the one after that took it all the way to the word the title promised you. Number 2, Vanguard, a village out in the southwest of the province between Swift Current and the dry lands toward the Montana border. The kind of place a long straight highway runs through without slowing down. Vanguard's down under 200 people now and thinning. A village that was built around the rail and the grain and has been losing both, and the people with them, for as long as anyone there can remember. There's a hall, a few streets, and a lot of sky. The houses here come up around 25,000 Canadian dollars at the bottom of the market. The odd older 2 or 3 bedroom home, plain, solid, the sort of place that was somebody's whole life and is now just waiting. $25,000 for a house with a yard in a village where you'd know every neighbour you've got left within a week. The catch is the isolation. Heavier here than up the list because Vanguard's smaller and farther along its own decline. Services are thin to none. The drive to anything real is long, and the winters out on that open southwest plain come in hard and stay. A house this cheap usually wants work too, but the deeper catch is the quiet. You'd be moving into a village that's mostly already gone, where the price is low for the plainest reason there is. Hardly anyone's coming the other way. Now hold that $25,000 number because the last town matched it, in a place the maps still print, but the census gave up on entirely. Number 1, Insinger, in the east-central part of Saskatchewan, between Yorkton and Foam Lake. And this is the real thing, the one the title was built on. Insinger isn't a dying town, it's a ghost town. The map still prints the name. The census stopped counting it as a town a long time ago. About 20 people are left in Insinger. 20. It was a proper town once, with enough of a congregation to build a church in 1942. Back when, as the old records put it, Insinger was still a town. The grain moved, the rail ran, the streets had names because the streets had people. Now it's a name on a sign and a scatter of buildings the prairie is slowly taking back. And in that ghost town, there's a house for sale. A bungalow from around 1930. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 672 square feet on a quarter-acre lot with a detached garage and a shed out back. And it is not a wreck. It's had natural gas put in, a new furnace, a new front door and step, fresh drywall taped and mudded. A livable, tidy little house. The asking price, on the cheap property features that carry it, sits under 25,000 Canadian dollars. Under 25,000. That's the number I opened with, and now you know where it lives. So here's the catch, and it's the biggest one on the whole list because it's the town itself. There's essentially no community left. No services, no jobs, no shop on the corner, for anything at all you're driving. About half an hour to Yorkton, near as long to Foam Lake, 20 people and a church. The winters are the full prairie article, long and white and silent, and out here the silence is total, because there's almost nobody left to make a sound. The house is sound. The town around it is gone. That's the trade laid bare. You can own a fixed-up little bungalow for less than the price of a new pickup, and the reason you can is that you'd be one of the last 20 people in a place that's already mostly memory. I know that sounds like the strangest thing in the world to want. For a certain kind of person, it isn't. For the fellow who's done with noise, done with neighbours through the wall, done with a city that costs more every year for less. $25,000 for your own walls and the whole quiet sky over them isn't a punishment. It's a door. Just go in with your eyes open. A house that cheap in a town that empty is never only about the house. And that right there is the whole point of this list. Saskatchewan has close to 200 places the census counts as nearly empty. Each one with its church, its school, its train, almost all of it gone now. The realtors show you the city, because the city pays the commission. They don't film the bungalow in Insinger or the cheap house in Lemberg, because there's no money in pointing you at a town that's emptying out. But the houses are real, and the catch is always the same shape. The price is low because the people left. That's not a scam, and it's not a misprint, or it's a confession printed in dollars. The numbers are public. You can check every one of them yourself. What the listings show you isn't the whole country. There's a way out there. In the ghost towns and the dying villages, nobody films, and a few stubborn folks are already taking it. So go see it with your own eyes, and come back and tell me about it. I'll see you down the road.